This is the Global Gambit.
Indeed. So I've got a couple of specific questions, particularly one on this asymmetrical element, the ability for the Ukrainians to develop in-house munitions, equipment, arsenal, etc. But obviously their sort of, should we say, intelligence, if you want, the way that they took out General Igor Kulilov, if I'm saying that surname correctly, about a month ago, was quite a impressive feat, through an explosion just outside of his apartment block or an apartment block. What was your takeaway from that? That Ukrainians have this quite covert sort of skill set that the Russians are continuing to underestimate? Because also I believe he was part of the nuclear defense force of Russia, which, given the re-emergence and threats of nuclear rhetoric from Putin, what's your assessment?
Well, first of all, that was a message to all Ukrainian officers that they are not untouchable and that they will be held accountable. Every officer who is anywhere in the chain of command responsible for launching missiles against civilian targets should be very worried that their address is known and that somehow, somewhere, some date, they're going to be held accountable. And of course, they're uniformed officers. They're not exempt from being attacked as legitimate targets. But the fact that Ukraine has the ability to find these guys is impressive. And I think it does come down a little bit to Russian arrogance. And they have not been terribly clever on protecting information. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, have been much more effective at protecting information, no matter how frustrating it might be to some journalists. So I think we're going to see continuing efforts on the Ukrainian side to go after leadership, which is the same thing that they're doing with long-range precision strike. Like, they just took out a big headquarters here in the last couple of days. This is how you counter the Russian advantage of mass. You do it with precision that can destroy headquarters and ammunition. If you can take those two things away, then it almost doesn't matter how many unlucky, untrained infantry you have.
But if they have that capacity, then why not utilize it in even more ways than they have done? It was a couple of years ago that they took out the daughter of Dugin, right? The sort of, modern day Rasputin for Putin, right? His sort of political philosopher-esque. And they took her out in a car bomb. So why haven't the Ukrainians been leveraging these sort of sabotage tactics more as a way to really, get the Kremlin, if not rattled on the battlefield, at least rattled towards Putin's ability to command full control?
Well, I don't think it's been established or that the Ukrainians have said that, yes, we're the ones that killed the daughter of Mr. Dugin. So I would not link these together. Secondly, to do something like what they did with the e-scooter bomb that you referenced a few weeks ago. I mean, you don't just catch a flight to Moscow and then with a bunch of explosives and go in there and blow something up or put it on somebody's car. So these are pretty elaborate operations. They'd have to go after very specific targets. And not every target that needs to be killed is necessarily going to make the priority list. So I would think that the Ukrainian side, particularly with General Budanov and people like that, they've got a plan and a list, and it should fit into the overall. I mean, it's not like a parallel universe where they're just killing whoever they can find. It ought to fit together as part of a concept of how Ukraine defeats Russia. And so I imagine they are working on doing even more of what we're talking about. I imagine they also have a team that's working hard on figuring out how they're going to drop that big Kerch bridge. That's not a couple of missiles. This is going to require an enormous amount of explosive to actually drop a span of that bridge, which is heavily protected. So, these things take time and planning to get all the stuff in place. And of course, the Russians are anticipating all of these things as well.